Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Despite the President of the United States throwing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under the bus, most Americans support Israel, and for good reasons. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel and dean of Liberty University School of Law. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action and associate dean of the law school. Matt, Sean Akers, who's the dean of the School of Government at Liberty University, and I, along with our wives, mine, Anita, and his, Shauna, and some others, were in Israel recently, and we had a delegation that met with all of the top nations' leaders in all the different areas, including a private meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And I won't go into details about the purpose of our meeting or what we were doing or what we discussed, but I will say that from Benjamin Netanyahu all the way down to all of the other leaders in the cabinet, they clearly indicated that what's at issue in Israel is not just a battle over some geographical pieces of property, but really a battle over our foundational values. And really what's at stake is the entire Western civilization. That's really what's at issue. You know, President Barack Obama said that Israel ought to return to the 1967 borders. Anyone who's visited Israel knows that that would be just absolute insanity. That would reduce Israel to 9 miles wide at one of the sections in the very center of Israel. And that would ultimately result in the complete destruction of Israel. The Palestinian radicals are not interested in just more land. They're interested in obliterating Israel from the map.
Israel is looking for allies in the evangelical Christian community, which is a huge, tens of millions of Americans here in the United States. And they know that we have long had a close alliance, the evangelical Christians, Israel. And for the first time, at least in my memory, we have a president that says one thing, does another, but now isn't even saying one thing. He definitely is showing favoritism toward the Islamist argument inside of things in terms of the Israeli conflict going on there, and has thrown Israel, as you mentioned, under the bus. So I think Israel is looking for allies where they need some. And I've said this before, President Obama, when you saw that meeting, Benjamin Netanyahu was very, respectful in the way that he handled that. But he said those 1967 borders are, quote, indefensible. And he said, quote, it's not going to happen. So it is a non-starter what the president has asked Israel to do, basically enter into a suicide pact. They're not going to do it. So, on the large scheme of things, the kind of global political scheme of things, that's the situation. When you narrow it down a little further, though, I think it's wonderful that Israel is reaching out to the evangelical community. The evangelical community is reaching out to Israel. There's a great partnership there, and where there's a vacuum of leadership on the part of President Barack Obama, Benjamin Netanyahu has stepped in to fill the void. And I've said, frankly, he's looking more like the leader of the free world right now than President Barack Obama.
Well, as someone that hasn't read, I encourage you to read, and we have a copy of it if you want to call us at Liberty Counsel, 1-800-671-1776, and that is the Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to a joint session of Congress in Washington, D.C. on May 24, 2011. It is a classic speech. He also, on the day that we visited him in his cabinet office, about 8 or 9 of us in his having a private meeting with him. He then went to speak at the President's Conference on that day, and he also spoke at the President's Conference 2 days later when it concluded. This is a conference in Israel in which national leaders from around the country, around the world come there. And his message there is like the message that he gave to Congress. And he talks about how Israel is pro-American and will always be pro-American, and that America has always been the nation that literally carries the torch of freedom. And the affinity between Israel and the United States is because of our shared core values. You know, the Ahmadinejad in Iran calls Israel the little Satan, and the United States the big Satan. Well, what do you think if they go after Israel and destroy it, which they want to do? They want to literally obliterate Israel because they don't like what Israel stands for. They don't like those core foundational biblical values, and they want to obliterate it. So this discussion over land and the geography is really a discussion of the fact that they don't want to have Israel exist. And if they eliminate Israel, guess who's next? The United States of America. And that's why we are joined at the hip, and that we always must maintain that relationship with Israel, not the least of which the Scriptures say that he who blesses Israel, that God will bless them as well.
Well, as you pointed out, Matt, to go back to these 1967 borders would make Israel merely 9 miles wide. And Netanyahu has said, quote, in America, you need to ask the question, WWAD, what would America do?
That's what he said during
your meeting.
Our meeting, yeah.
Exactly.
When we were talking, he says, the people in America need to ask the question, WWAD. He says, do you know what that stands for? I said, no. He said, what would America do?
And of course, it goes back to the WWJD. What would Jesus do? He's asking WWAD.
What would America do? And you think, okay, if America were asked by England or Spain to return to the 1776 borders, what would we do? That's essentially what people are asking Israel to do, to return to the equivalent of the 1776 borders in America, or to return to the 1800 and something borders with Mexico, so that Mexico would then have the entire West Coast and New Mexico, and we would literally lose a good chunk of our country. That's essentially what people are asking Israel to do. But more than that, they're asking Israel to literally open up its throat and let the axe come down on it, because that's what's ultimately at stake.
And that's what President Obama is asking for. And you have to say, with friends like that, as they say, who needs enemies? I mean, he's asking Israel to do something that they cannot possibly do and survive, and it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, in fact, when you look at Israel here, the fact of the matter is that Israel is and has been our best ally, and particularly in the Middle East. One of the things that Benjamin Netanyahu said is that there are 300 million Palestinians that live around the world. 1 million of those, or 1 or 2 million of those, have freedom of those 300 million.
Right.
And do you know where they live?
Yeah.
In Israel.
Right.
Every other Palestinian lives under a dictator, despot situation. The only Palestinians that actually live in a democratic, free society are those that live within the borders of Israel.
Well, the Muslim quasi-religious political construct is completely opposed to democracy, is completely opposed to liberty and freedom. The bulk of the Middle East is under despotism, is under Muslim despotism. There is no freedom. And as you point out, the shining city on the hill, to borrow from Ronald Reagan, if you will, in the Middle East is Israel. And that is the one place where a Muslim can go and actually have freedom, is within the Jewish borders, the Jewish boundaries. Yet they're the little Satan that must be destroyed. Well, sure, they must be destroyed if you hate liberty, if you hate freedom, and if you hate God's chosen people.
Well, we'll be announcing in the future some projects that we're going to be doing in Israel, and some opportunities that people may be able to come and actually participate in some of those projects and go there and not only tour, but also get a good foundation in terms of the biblical, historical, and political issues that affect Israel and why it's so strategically important. But I think that it's important at this moment in history, of all moments in history, that we stand with Israel, that we not throw the Prime Minister or Israel under the bus. They are our best allies. If we lose Israel as an ally in the Middle East, we've lost the Middle East, pure and simple. And we lose the Middle East, ultimately that affects the freedoms that we enjoy here in America. I encourage you to read Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to Congress We have it at Liberty Counsel. You can call us at 1-800-671-1776, or you can go to our website and send us an email to get a copy of that speech and send it around to your friends. It is a very powerful speech. And as Matt Barber says, he has become essentially a de facto spokesperson for the free world, because he is speaking those core values that make Israel and the United States a great nation. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org, or call us at 1-800-671-1776. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.